The Supreme Court is obviously not here to work for the American people. The Supreme Court is not here to serve our democracy or our Constitution. The Supreme Court is here to serve oligarchs. They're here to serve billionaires. They're here to serve large corporations. They're here to serve white supremacy and white patriarchy and nativism. Their decision to strike down Joe Biden's student debt cancellation policy is strictly political, and it does exactly what we have all seen them doing over the last several months. They want to take away our civil rights. They want to take away our voting rights, our human rights, women's rights. They want to make our country more dangerous by expanding concealed carry permits. They don't want black people to be educated. That's why they banned universities' ability to use race in admissions decisions.
All right, guys, so if you haven't been living on a rock, then you should be aware that the Supreme Court struck down systemic racism in college admissions this week. And the woke revolutionaries, the race crusaders of America, lost their minds because apparently they do support systemic racism, okay? Except the systemic racism just has to be against whites and Asians. It is truly a fascinating hood-off moment for the Democrat Party, which nobody should be surprised about because that is the party of the KKK, okay? They're the party of racism, okay? It's just we have a new woke racism in 2023 that the left supports, okay? They support woke racism. So with that being said, I want to talk about Joy Reid's response to this, okay? Because I've talked about the media's reaction to it. However, I haven't talked specifically about Joy Reid and her reaction. Because in her reaction, she's going to tell a story about her experience getting into Harvard. And I don't think that this story that Joy Reid is telling proves what she thinks that is proving in regards to the need for affirmative action. In my opinion, I think that the story she's telling actually proves that you don't need affirmative action. So I actually want to react to it. So without further ado, let's go ahead and get into it.
Well, let me just be clear. I got into Harvard only because of affirmative action. I went to a school no one had ever heard of in Denver, Colorado, in a small suburb. I didn't go to Exeter or Andover. I didn't have college test prep. I just happened to be really nerdy and smart and have really good grades and good SAT scores. Right. But someone came to Denver, Colorado to look for me. A Harvard recruiter flew to Denver, and I met up with her at the Village Inn restaurant and did a pre-interview to get to pull me into Harvard. I was pulled in, and the schools like Harvard and Yale that I got into affirmatively. Yes. And it was literally not saying we're going to take an unqualified person and put them in Harvard. Yes. We're going to take a very qualified person who we would never know existed and put them in Harvard. That's how I got there. That's how Ketanji got there. That's how Justice Jackson, I should say. Justice Jackson got there. It's how Clarence Thomas got there. Right. But
yeah, you notice how she doesn't want to refer to Ketanji Brown Jackson by her first name, and the way she did it so casually. That means she definitely has a personal relationship with her. They're probably friends, okay? But for Clarence Thomas, oh yeah, Clarence Thomas, right? Don't want to throw the respect on Clarence Thomas' name. Amazing. But listen to her story. She's not proving the point that she thinks that she's proven because one, she's low-key kind of deceptively telling the story, right? She's trying to pretend that affirmative action is Harvard going out here and looking for people like Joy Reid, okay, and flying out to recruit them and pulling them into the school when that's not how the process works. Joy Reid had to apply to Harvard first. She had good grades, okay, and she had good SAT scores, according to her, and a recruiter came to do an interview with her, which is what they do if they think that you are a good candidate. Joy Reid is not focusing enough on the part of the story that she should be focused on, which is the fact that they didn't recruit you because you're black, right? They recruited you because you had good grades, right? And you're proving that as a black woman that it is possible to do these things without needing a booster seat. That's if I am to believe your story, because who knows? Joy Reid said she had good grades, okay, and that she had good SAT scores. I don't know. Maybe she did or she didn't, but she claims that I know for certain I got into Harvard because of affirmative action, which in my opinion is not something that I will be declaring out loud, right? That's not something that I would necessarily be proud of. But you can't say that you got into Harvard or that you know you got into Harvard because of affirmative action if you know that your grades were good and you had a great SAT score. It doesn't make sense. It doesn't make sense. So to say that you only got in because of affirmative action, even though you just said you had good grades and good SAT score, I think is ridiculous. is also offensive, because what you're implying is that any black person, regardless of how qualified they are getting into these schools because of affirmative action. Again, that to me is offensive. If you worked hard and you earned something, why are you sitting here saying that, well, I only got in because of affirmative action? So that you can defend having lower standards for black folks instead of just telling black people, hey, raise your standards. I had great grades. I had great SAT score and I got in, right? Maybe, you know, other black students should do that, right? And that will help them get in. That's what you should be saying. But no, it's always victimhood with these people, okay? And you notice how the people that are in positions of power, successful black folks, who clearly are intelligent, who clearly are, you know, doing all the right things they need to do, they work hard to get in their positions, telling black people that are below them, no, you can't get in my position by just working hard and out-competing everybody else. You need a booster seat, right? You need colleges to let you in just because you're black, because you can't compete with the whites and the Asians when clearly you have black people that can, right? Clearly you do. But again, these people, they never have any constructive advice to help people overcome obstacles. They just want to boo-hoo, whine, and complain about it.
But the minute I arrived from my majority black little town, Montbello in Denver, to Harvard, the first week or two that I was in class, my presence was questioned by white people.
That's a lie, right? That's a lie. I don't believe that at all. This is made up. Nobody, you didn't walk in class and people were like, oh my God, why is this black woman here, right? Get out of here.
I was in this big conference class where some white students stood up and said, those students, the black students, they're only here because of affirmative action.
No, they didn't. No, they didn't. This is a lie. Why are you lying? Why are you lying? Next thing you know, she's going to be saying that these students were wearing MAGA hats, right? They're wearing MAGA hats and said, your kind don't belong around here, right? These people never cease to amaze me with the lies that they will tell for victimhood points, okay? It's really fascinating.
Became a huge argument that we all ended up having. This was freshman year. I had never had my academic credentials questioned. I had never had anyone question whether I was intelligent until I got to Harvard.
The only people doing that were your woke professors, right? I guarantee you, no student did that to Joy Reid. But I can tell you one thing, there are a lot of people questioning your intelligence today, not because you're black, but because of the things that you say. Okay, there's a lot of stupid stuff that comes out of your mouth on a day-to-day basis. So yeah, I'm pretty sure people are questioning your intelligence. But again, it has nothing to do with your race or the fact that you allegedly have a vagina. None of that, right? I'm just saying, the things that you say make people question your intelligence more so than anything else.
And it was a defining point of my experience there. It's why I really was one of the many reasons I was miserable there my freshman year.
Yeah. Again, Joy Reid before in past interviews basically said that Harvard was a good experience for her, right? It was great. Okay, now all of a sudden affirmative action's overturned. Now all of a sudden, oh, it was terrible, right? It was so racist. People didn't think I belonged there because I'm black.
You felt completely out of place and people keep telling you shouldn't be here. And yet, some of the people I went to school with were far less smart than me or the other black folk there. They got in because their daddy and their granddaddy. I went to school with somebody whose name was on one of the buildings. You're going to school with people whose names are on the buildings, who are third and fourth generation legacies, whose parents pumped money into Harvard to get them in. But that affirmative action is okay with this majority.
Well, it doesn't have anything to do with racial discrimination, right? Again, this is about the 14th Amendment and equal protection. Legacy admissions, unfortunately, doesn't have anything to do with that, okay? It doesn't have to do with racial discrimination. You could argue that maybe it has to do with discrimination based off income, okay? You could argue that. But again, it doesn't have anything to do with racial discrimination. So bringing up legacy admissions is kind of bringing up like an apples to oranges thing that these wokes always try to do to deflect from the fact that they support racism.
They said that the people who benefited from slavery, their descendants, who are so far ahead of black folk in terms of opportunity, that we'll never catch up to them. I don't care how many Oprahs we get.
Yeah, so it doesn't matter, right? It doesn't matter what the government does. Black people are always going to continue to need a handout, okay? You're always going to need a handout. Here's the thing about Joy Reid where I think she's wrong, okay? Again, this is victimhood. This is victimhood. That's what this is. There's nothing encouraging about this. There's nothing from this rant that's actually really going to help anybody get ahead. Basically, what Joy Reid is saying here is just give up, right? Don't even try, because the white man is always going to be ahead, right? He's always going to be ahead. When in 2023, the playing field, in my opinion, has been more level than it's ever has been. That it never has been. Black people have access to all the knowledge in the world. We have access to resources, again, because of technology. Again, it's not like, you live in the 1950s or 1960s where you have to actually get up and drive. You have to own a car to go to the library or whatever, right? You have a library. You have the World Library on your phone where you have unlimited access to knowledge to learn whatever you want to learn, right? There are so many programs out there to help so-called disadvantaged students get ahead. There's so many of them out there. But opportunity doesn't come to people who don't seek opportunity. You have to seek those opportunities. You have to go out there and seek those resources. They're there. They're there. But instead of telling people to do that, no, let's boohoo, whine, and complain about it. Let's not actually come up with any real, actual solutions that don't involve racism that can allow black people to compete against whites and Asians. Because I know black people are capable of doing it, but apparently people like Joy Reid don't think so.
Those people's affirmative action is A-OK, because those people can pay for fancy trips for them. Yeah. But you people who want to get in just because of your brains, but you're not from a legacy, too bad. You can't come in.
Yo, you know what's funny about that? This is exactly what Asians are crying about when it comes to affirmative action. Asians are saying, yeah, I just want to get in because of my brains, and I don't want to be discriminated against because of my race. And university is saying, too bad, so sad, you can't get in. Which is funny because logically, right? Joy Reid, because she's against legacy admissions, she should be against affirmative action, right? I'm against both. So logically speaking, I'm consistent. I think both are bad, and I think that schools should only be admitting students based off merit, okay? I think that's what it comes down to, right? And one of the reasons why I believe this is because of my own experience in college, right? I went to UNC Chapel Hill, which, again, allegedly is an elite school, okay? But, they were caught up in using affirmative action. They used affirmative action to admit black males, and the results were disastrous. Now, I did graduate from the university in 4 years, okay? However, there's always been a conversation at the university, even when I was there, about the black male graduation rate, because it was a disaster. It was the lowest out of any other demographic group. Black males struggled the most at UNC Chapel Hill, okay? Now, I'm going to read this real quick to give you guys more context. According to a 2017 story in the Daily Tar Heel, UNC Chapel Hill has been unable to enroll more than 125 black men per incoming class since 2009. A 2010 study released by the Office of Institutional Research and Assessment showed that only 49.2% of black males graduate within 4 years, the lowest of any demographic group. Okay, so only 49.2% of black men graduate within 4 years. Okay, so less than half. What does that tell you? That tells you that they don't belong there in the first place, right? It tells you that they don't belong there in the first place, or it just so happens that a lot of those students may not be working hard enough, right? I mean, I can tell you, when I was in college, the difference between my freshman and sophomore year is night and day between my junior and senior year in regards to grades, right? The first 2 years I got there, I was not a great student, right? I was focused on doing everything that college students do stereotypically in college, and it wasn't good. I think I had like a 3.0 or something like that, right? Which by my standards is not good. A 3.0, being a B student is not good, okay, by my own standards, right? And I felt bad about it, right? And I actually blamed the man, okay? I blamed the man. I had a streak of, well, it's not my fault, it's the system's fault. I didn't have this, I didn't have that growing up. I'm disadvantaged, such and such and such. And I bought into that because, again, at these universities, they brainwash you, right? You get kind of exposed to a lot of these liberal ideologies, and you take some of these classes and you get indoctrinated. And it really does become an easy way to blame other people for your life circumstance. When the reality is that for me, all I need to do is just work harder, right? I just decided to do something that apparently is something that nobody wants to recommend to black folks that are upset about this. I just decided, hey, you know what? I'm actually going to not wait to the last minute to study before an exam. I'm actually going to read before I go to class so that I have a better understanding of what the professor's talking about when I go to class, and I'll read out the class so I can retain the information better. Okay, I'm actually going to study. I'm going to actually be a good student. I'm going to work harder on my grades, and my grades got better, right? They got a whole lot better, okay? Had nothing to do with my skin color as much as it had to do with my work ethic in regards to whether or not I was successful at the university. But you know, the issue is never framed that way, okay? The truth is that UNC was letting in black males who should not have been there, and lo and behold, they weren't successful. The way that you increase the black male graduation rate, the four-year graduation rate, is to let in black males who are actually qualified to be there, and then the rate will increase, okay? I mean, it's really that simple. That, or the ones that you're letting in, they need to work harder, right? They need to work harder. They need to study more. And the reality is that regardless of race, the best of the best are already doing that, right? The best of the best students are already doing that. And those are the students that should be admitted into these schools regardless of their race. Because black people who study, who put in the work, are going to be among the best of the best, okay? Affirmative action is simply unnecessary. Let me know what you guys think. Make sure you like, comment, and subscribe. Most importantly, share a black conservative perspective. Peace.